screens are off. It's always a little weird. Oh, the recording's in process. Well, I'm going to kick this back to Chad. We're going to visit with you a little bit at the end. It's exciting to have you guys all here. I know this is a new approach for Alliance to do this type of seminar, if you will, communication stream, but it's extremely effective, and you get to just see how many of us are out there, and we're all thinking the same stuff. So back to you, brother.
Excellent. Well, good morning. Happy early Thanksgiving, Remax Alliance, staff, managing brokers. I know we've got some loan officers. Our insurance partners might be on as well. As we round off and round up the year of 2024, what a year. What a crazy year in our industry. I just have a couple of real quick housekeeping items, and then we're going to introduce our special guest. And then hopefully we'll have a little time for some filtered Q&A for Tyrone. And then Dennis and I are going to conclude with some introductions. So that's kind of the outline for the next 50 minutes or so. Really quick, my housekeeping items. Remember, everybody, your managing brokers, office administrators have already communicated this to you, but our license renewal cycle this year goes back to a calendar year. So though there's a good chunk of you, probably a third of you, have your license expiring on December 31st of this year, please be aware that if your license normally expired in March, no more. It's going to be December 31st. We just sent out a pay attention memo. You're going to see it in our Broker Insider newsletter. We're ready to re-up our E&O insurance. We're with Williams Underwriting once again. My gosh, we've had a relationship with this fantastic carrier for going on, I think, our 23rd year of partnering with Williams E&O. I do want to mention, and this will be a good segue for my intro for Tyrone, for those of you that renewed your association membership, our friends at the Colorado Association of Realtors have negotiated a fantastic endorsement added to your Williams E&O policy. You will go on and use your NAID number, and you can obtain this endorsement. What it means, and Tyrone might want to talk about it a little bit, additional coverage for you in a whole myriad of situations. Just can't stress it enough. For those of you who have renewed, please remember to add that additional car Williams underwriting endorsement to your E&O policy. The National Association of Realtors just came out with some recent statistics, and they're projecting that for resale homes nationwide, that this is going to be the lowest year since 1995, which is alarming to me. So for me, for Chad, this is the lowest number of resales in my career. I know that many of us have felt that personally in our transaction counts company-wide and in our pocketbook, but I want to just commend all of you for being so resilient and for being so dedicated and doing such a wonderful job. Remax Alliance, we are still going to end this year with over 5,000 transaction sites. 5,000 transaction sides on the Front Range. That is significant, and especially when you look at what's happened in the NAR statistics comparing this year to 1995. So Remax Alliance, congratulations, kudos. You all are very resilient. As I lead into Tyrone, I was thinking about the past 4 years, going on number 5, and going back to the very start of the pandemic. And our friends at the Colorado Association of Realtors, including Tyrone, including Scott Peterson, they worked immediately with Marcia Waters, with the governor, with the folks downtown. And if you all remember, going back to that time, we were an essential business. We were able to be open. And that was in large part because of the advocacy of Tyrone and Carr and others. We navigated through COVID. Remember the COVID forms, the required forms, and all of the mandates and things that you all did so well and complied with. You educated your consumer. We worked through that in large part, again, thanks to Carr and their leadership. Not too long after that, we had a horrific fire in Boulder County, the Marshall fires. I remember that day very well. It just felt like what else could go wrong on the Front Range at the moment. And there were a lot of things that happened behind the scenes that the Colorado Association of Realtors and their foundation stepped in and really worked well with not only the cleanup, but some of the reconstruction and rebuild. They helped the realtors navigate to sell lots and land and properties with disclosures. So we were dealt with that one, Tyrone, in 2021. Then last year, we had one of our first mid-year forms changes in my career with the addition of the radon, which in hindsight, that was like nothing. That was a drop in the bucket compared to everything else that was going on. But nonetheless, our friends at Carr were expedited in working with Dora to get the radon changes into our contracts. They were expedited with getting education out there. So again, our friends at Carr, thank you for that one. And then 2024. 2024 occurs and our industry is faced with probably the most scrutiny that we have all dealt with in our careers, with the lawsuits, with the media frenzy. And our friends at Carr and Dora worked quickly to get the new forms done, get education out there, as we all navigated the second round of mid-year forms changes in August based on the settlements and the settlement language. So that's a lot in just a handful of years. And I just want to, again, before I introduce him, thank him and his leadership and all of the people that work behind the scenes to advocate and help us through some tumultuous times. I've known Tyrone for many, many years, and he is probably one of the most aspired leaders in his position on a national level. State associations are always looking at what is Colorado doing? How is Colorado navigating this? How is Colorado leading the way? So without further ado, my friend Tyrone Adams, the CEO of the Colorado Association of Realtors. And the great thing about this is he does not have to drive to 20 different REMAX Alliance offices and visit your sales meetings. He can sit at his nice desk and address us from there. So Tyrone, you're up. Thank you, man. Good to see you.
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate you. Wow, you've already given my whole presentation to your group already, but that's okay. We got other things to talk about. But I really do appreciate you allowing me to be on here today. And you're right, we have a lot of things going on still within the real estate industry. We know that the NAR settlement, the August 17th deadline has come and gone, but now we have to get to November 26th, which is next week, which will be the final judgment of the settlement. And we're hoping to get there. We know that there were some objections filed regarding the settlement. And some of the objections were from people, some of the plaintiffs who said, wow, wait a minute. We're only going to get about $25 a piece from this. And then the plaintiff's attorneys are going to get $333 million off of this. So they're really are bummed about that. They also said it didn't really change what they thought it was going to change because people are starting to navigate and figure out different ways to articulate their value proposition and still get paid, which is something that you guys should always be doing anyway, because you guys do so much more than just put a sign in the yard and tell people come look at it. So that is the misnomer that is out there, but those are the objections that are out there as well. In talking with NAR, they don't feel like the plaintiffs have or the objections have any really true legs on them. They feel like they're in a good position. Now, we do know that the DOJ is still interested in separating commissions totally, buyers and sellers. They want to get rid of that completely. But that's not going to be a part of this settlement negotiation next week. It's going to be what this settlement is. Do they go forward with it or they do not go forward with it? NAR has done everything. The states have done everything they can to make sure that we're in compliance with the settlement. And so I don't see where this is going to hurt us going forward. And regarding the settlement, I know there are a lot of people who are upset about it. And why did NAR settle? There were a myriad of reasons why NAR settled. One is, when you look at it, they said they lost they lost early on because you had other companies starting to settle before they could settle, or before they could even go to trial with it. So they felt like that was a loss for them right there. Second of all, the other part is they had 29 different copycat lawsuits that also included the local associations and some of the state associations across the nation. And that was huge because if you look at the state of the local associations or the state associations, how many can really fight a antitrust lawsuit in court without going bankrupt? So NER took that on. And if you look at how much funds that, you have to look at it from a different perspective. How much is it going to cost you to win? And I think NER took a look at that as well and said, how much is it going to cost us to really win these 29 different lawsuits in addition to our own? And so this is one of the reasons why they did go to the table. They tried to include everybody, is from my knowledge, but the plaintiffs would not accept it. They said that they wanted to carve out a certain group of brokerages and say, no, we want to go after them. And that's where they came up with that $2 million threshold, which is, something that NER was not very happy about. And please, you guys, if you guys have questions, please raise your hand or interrupt me, and I'll be more than to stop and answer any questions you might have regarding any of these topics.
Tyrone, I'll interrupt you just so that we've got some semblance of order. If you have a question, why don't you put it in the chat, and then we'll come back and we'll call on you and you can verbalize your question to Ty.
Okay. So going back to where we are, as Chad mentioned, been around here for quite some time. I've been here now 31 years. And so we've all seen some changes, some ups and downs within the real estate industry, right? And we're always going to see them. But that's one thing when we talk about the importance of the realtor associations, we're never going to be considered a monument. We're never going to be static. We're going to always look to be more of a movement and change with the times. Because as we know, if we become that static organization, what's going to happen? We're going to become like the Kodaks, the Blockbusters of the world, the Blackberries, the Nokias. We're going to become irrelevant. So it keeps us on our toes. We have to navigate these waters, and we got to make sure that we're trying to do the best we can to keep you guys informed of all the different things that are going on in the industry. And that is where something that we do, I think, pretty well when we say it's good for your business. We do try to do a lot of webinars. Whenever there's something changing that's going on in the industry, we try to hold a webinar for the entire state to understand what's going on. Explain the 2 million. So that $2 million threshold was basically the plaintiffs requested that any brokerage that made over $2 million in gross revenue, I want to say back in 2018, that you had to be carved out of that settlement. They did not want you to be a part of that settlement because, in my opinion, they saw blood in the water. And they saw that they can probably get more money by doing these additional settlements versus trying to combine everybody all together. So that is where that $2 million threshold came in at. I don't know actually how they came up with that number, but that is what NER has said, that they did advocate to include everybody, all brokerages, all realtor brokerages, and not just carve out that one part. I know they've been going around talking to all the different brokerages that were left out of this settlement to explain to them what happened and why, and that they did advocate for them, but the plaintiffs would not budge on the settlement unless that piece was carved out. And Anna, did that answer your question?
I think so. I thought you said $200 million, something that.
No, it was 2 million.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. So then actually it was 2 billion. I'm sorry, that was too low. But yeah, that was way too low. So then going forward, you saw what's in the news today, right? Or yesterday. There was another article in there about NER and their frivolous spending over the years. Now it takes it back to 2022 about the CEO salary, talks about the perks that some of the volunteer leaders were getting. And the whole gist of the article was about the mismanagement of the members' money. And when you look at that article, and they take it back to 2022, I want to fast forward to where they are now. Back in 2022, they did have some problems. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The Realtor Association did have some issues, some cultural issues internally. And I will say now they are doing everything they can to change that. You had Kevin Sears, who's the current president, but he was also the president last year, served for a 2-year term, which is unprecedented, to help kind of shape this. They brought in some of the past presidents to help kind of reshape this. They hired a new CEO in Nakia Wright, who comes from the Chicago Sun-Times, to reshape the organization and to bring some stability and credibility back to the National Association of Realtors. And I know this might seem like a little thing to many people, but when we just came back from the NER NXT conference in Boston last week, a week ago, one of the things we noticed was there was not a lot of frills like there used to be. There wasn't a lot of swag that they were giving away, and even down to you had to buy your own coffee. So I know that might sound small, but if you think about how much coffee costs for a conference like that, that is huge. And I know that they're still trying to make some changes, cultural changes going forward to make sure that the realtors, you guys, are all at the center of everything we do and not the leadership itself. And they want to get rid of that narrative of this ivory tower and focus back on the members who are paying their dues to be a part of this. And I would tell you at the state level and the local association level here, thank goodness we're not in those situations. We are very transparent in everything we do. If you want to see how we break down our funding or how we spend our budget, we're more than happy to do that. The number one thing we spend our money on is political advocacy. Chad talked about it, all the different things that we do there. One of the things that you might not know is how many bills we actually advocate for or against each and every year. I believe there are over 700 bills that were introduced down at the Capitol this past year. And I want to say that we took positions on about 90 of them. And when I say take positions, we either oppose, we either approve or support, or we either amend them. And a lot of times when we do these things, we're trying to make sure that even if we know that we don't have the votes to get something killed, we want to go in and amend it. And to us, that's still a great win because there's some of these bills that come out at the very beginning that are just crazy and it will definitely harm your business. So we go in at our LPC, and many of you have served on LPC, go in and they negotiate, they talk about what amendments do they want to bring back to our lobbyists. And then our lobbyists go in and then they lobby those legislators about what they think this bill should be. And many times, like for instance, the property tax bill, or no, the right to remedy bill, they actually got 21 amendments done out of 22, and it made it, or excuse me, the rent control bill, and they watered it down so much that they just had to kill it, which was a great thing for the state of Colorado. The other thing that we looked at was property taxes. There were a couple of bills out there for property taxes that one would have been harmful. It would have actually brought down the state property tax, but it would have been harmful to the local property taxes, to the local services. And so our position is that we wanted to make sure that when we look at something in its totality, that it helps our local communities as well. So we went through the special session this year with our lobbyists, and we actually got something done that we felt would be suitable for the entire state, not just for a part of the state. And so if you look at the local taxes, the local services, that's actually going to be covered. It'll be backfilled through the state. But also, you have to look at, it brought down the commercial tax rate as well. Now you say it's by 2%, but dang, from 29% to 27%, that's still a win in our eyes, because before it's going to stay static at 29%. So we're looking at those type of things, and we know that we still have work to do when it comes to our advocacy efforts. We know that that construction defects, which we were supportive of and we were actually pushing forward last year, was something that was on our radar, and it didn't have the votes to pass. But we're coming back again this year because we do believe that to revise the construction defects laws are very important for this state. What that would mean, what that does for us is it'll help us build condos. If you guys don't know, we're about 125,000 homes short of where we are to make sure that we have a good stock of housing to make things more affordable. I know that people were talking about in our plaintiffs and the settlement was about, your commissions are making this more expensive. No, it's really about economics 101. It's about inventory, supply and demand. So the more inventory we can get, and we can get different types of inventory for people, then it'll make it more affordable for here in the state of Colorado. And so we're going to advocate again, and we're trying to line up all the legislators again this year to support our efforts in getting some construction defects laws, which means we're going to collaborate. We do a lot of collaboration with the business community around. I don't know if you guys remember Ted Leidy, who used to be our government affairs VP here. He actually is the CEO for the Home Builders Association. So we're working with him to help him also to collaborate to get this done as well. So that's very important. Is CAR working on benchmarking legislation, commercial utility tracking law that passed this year? I am not familiar with that legislation on the commercial utility tracking law. I'll have to go back and take a look at that, or I can have Brian Tanner apply to you. Is that okay with you? Okay, I'll make sure Brian Tanner follows up with you, Doug. And so some other things that, when we talk about advocacy, I think Chad mentioned this as well. You talk about the regulatory side of it. Yes, we did, go in and we did talk to the Attorney General's office. We talked to the governor's office. We did talk to the Real Estate Commission, because we do have a good relationship with them about, make sure you guys were essential, because you guys weren't. And actually there were about 10 states in the nation that did not become essential. Colorado was one of them. But then if you guys remember, they made you essential, but then they didn't define what essential meant. So the AG's office said that you cannot provide marketing services. So then we had to go back in and then advocate to say, understand what the real estate transaction looks like. You have to have marketing services as a part of this. And so once that happened, then once they understood, the governor understood, they understood that we need to have marketing services as part of the essential piece of the transaction. But we did have to go to them with solutions on how to keep people safe, because that was their number one goal, was to make sure people were safe, and that you were safe, but also the consumers were safe. Some other things that we do, that there's always a sunset review every 10 years. And the Real Estate Commission always comes to us and they always ask us as stakeholders, what is our thoughts? So that's coming up again next year. So one of the things we like to do is we like to make sure that we get the input of all of our members. And so we'll be sending out a piece or survey asking you what you guys think should happen with the sunset review of the Real Estate Commission. Now, I would tell you, one of the things we always hear from the members is we got to raise the bar. We got to make it harder to become a real estate practitioner here in the state of Colorado. And we've tried that every single year, and I've been a part of this now for three times. And we can still go back again. We're not going to give up. But the answer to that question for them is we don't want barriers to entry into this profession. So what can we do to make sure that there's no barriers to entry? And they feel like if we raise the bar to make people qualify or to get their real estate license here in the state of Colorado, then we're creating a barrier to entry. And then they were trying to monopolize this field, this career field. So this is where the Realtor Associations come into play. One of the things, and this is why we're here, we can help raise the bar as the Realtor Associations. When you have the code of ethics, when you have all these different things, the professional development that you have to take, when you take the webinars that we offer, when you also have to do the fair housing and all those different things, we feel like those are things that are important to your overall business. Because if you don't do those things, what is really the difference? You can get your real estate license, you can just practice and be fine. But if you want to raise the bar, that's where the National Association, the state association, and local associations can help you raise the bar for your profession. Not everybody's cut out to be a realtor. We know that. And so we're trying to make sure that there's some value in what we provide for you as an association. Speaking of that, one of the things that people don't realize is we definitely help with the economy. How many of you guys know that the real estate industry accounts for $113 billion or 21.7% of the gross state product? That's huge, right? and that for every home built here in the state of Colorado, that it creates 3 jobs, and those jobs earnings are around 63,820, and the impact of a home sale is about 174,500, which is huge, and we're a big part of that. Construction lawsuits, defects lawsuit regulations have killed the condo market for more than 10 years. Yes, it has. And this is why we're bringing that back again in 2025. David, we know this is very important for the state of Colorado, for the economy, and this is what we always tell people, talk to our legislators about. You say that you run on the platform that you want to bring affordable housing to Colorado. Well, when we give you something that you can actually vote on and approve that's going to help with the affordable housing or the attainable housing here in Colorado, we're asking that you really consider and vote for those type of things. We felt like we had a very strong plan for the construction defects bill last year, and it got shot down because, once again, you still have a contingency of people out there who feel that this is all about the realtors trying to make more money, instead of looking at the overall picture of, it's not about them making more money, it's about bringing the cost of housing down by creating more inventory. Now you get more choices, but that's economics 101. I'd like to go back to that once again. So yes, David, we're going to continue to look at that construction defects bill. And other things that we want to talk about when it comes to the economy, the impact of the economy. NER does their research. They do a lot of great research. And one of the things that stood out to me was realtors who are members are way more active than those who are not. And there was a statistic earlier on that they showed that being a realtor can also help you earn more money, which is, we're here to make you guys more successful, whatever that means to you, but it can help you earn more money than those who are non-members. So we like to look at that as well. And then, Chad, you talked about the community, our CAR Foundation. That is something that we're very proud of. And since 1990, they have helped over countless number of organizations, countless number of people, and to the tune of $10.7 million since 1990. We continue to give out grants every single year. We have 2 grant cycles. This past year, we gave out over $120,000 in grants to nonprofit housing organizations. And that goes from anything to, battered women's shelters, to homeless shelters, to all kinds of things that help people with housing. It's not just about owning a home, it's about housing. And to that point, Chad, you talked about the Realtor Relief Foundation there. Well, we actually helped with NER's help, the Realtor Relief Foundation. We actually were able to give out $1.5 million to people here in the state of Colorado. And if you think about that, that goes back from 2008 when we had the flood, we had the tornadoes in 2008 in Holly. Do you guys remember that? That was huge. Then we had the tornado in Windsor. They helped us with that as well. And then we had the flood in 2014, I believe, which the big Thompson Valley flood. We had that flood. And so they helped us with that. And then you go forward and you had the wildfire that just happened. So that was huge as well. And so we were able to help out the community, and also realtors, to kind of help restore their life somewhat. We know that the amount that we can give out to everyone was not going to restore them whole, but it was still something that we were able to help, more so than any other organization that was out there, including, in some cases, FEMA, which I think is a credit to the realtor organizations for stepping up to the plate and helping out in all these disasters. If you look what's going on nationwide with all those disasters, those hurricanes that just hit, NER is right there helping all those states kind of help recover from those natural disasters. And so those are the type of things that as realtor associations, we do. We do more than just provide the legal hotline. We do more than just provide professional standards, which, by the way, you guys, is huge as a member benefit. And the reason why is because if you look at what you would have to pay for go to court, it's going to be astronomical. But what we try to do is we included an ombudsman program to try to get both parties to the table first, have a conversation to see if they can rectify or come to some type of agreement before they take it to mediation or arbitration, which is huge. Lynn, curious what the foundation amount was to help each family post-fire and then compare the amount. So the amount that we helped with each family, it all depended. So it all depends on how much their mortgage was or their rent was going to be. So if, for instance, if your rent was, we capped it at $2,000, but if your rent was $1,000, you got $1,000 for 1 month's rent. If your mortgage was $1,500, you got $1,500 for 1 month to help pay your mortgage. Those type of things. So it was never just one cut number that we just gave to everybody. It was variation of different things based off of your mortgage or your rent. So the foundation has been huge for us. And I just want to, I don't want to belabor all this stuff. I think you guys can see all the different things we provide. Many of you have been around for quite some time, and you see what the Realtor Association provide. But I'd just like to give you one little anecdote that I think is very important. And that is, you have all these benefits at your local level, your state level, and the national level. But they're not good. They're not going to be useful to you unless you take action and use them. There's a story that one of your peers told me once before, and I like it. He says, when you go to a vending machine, you take a look at it, and you select and you figure out what you want to buy, and then you pay the money. But you don't get what you want from that machine until you do what? Until you push the button. And if you don't push the button, then you don't get what you want. It's the same thing with the realtor associations. We can provide anything and everything for you 1,000 times over. But if you don't push the button, if you don't use the resources that you have, then it's not going to be useful for you. And look, I know that RE/MAX is a worldwide brand, a global brand, and you guys do a lot of great things for your brokers, and that's awesome. And we're not trying to compete with RE/MAX at all. We're trying to supplement what you guys do to make sure that whoever's a member of us is going to be successful, because you have a choice. We know that. We've always said that. And we know that we have to earn your business every single year. So we take that very seriously, which is why, going back to what I said earlier, we always want to be nimble. We always want to change with the times. We always want to make sure that we're providing value to you guys so we don't become irrelevant like some of these other companies have. And that is just the way of the realtor associations at all three levels. We know we have some hiccups. We know we got to get better. We know that the National Association has to get better. But I would tell you that they're working hard to make sure they're better for you guys federally. And you still can't take away what they do advocacy-wise. And I always like to ask people, what if we didn't exist? What if everybody gets their wish and we go away? What kind of chaos would that bring to the real estate industry? What kind of chaos would that bring to your consumers? Because who else is going to advocate for you? I know there's other competing models out there, but do they have over 100 years of history of advocating for consumers and for their members? They don't. Do they have all the resources that we put together effectively for you guys? They don't. Did we have mission drift? I think any corporation, any association can have mission drift. The key is, what do you do when you fall down? Do you get back up and fight, or do you stay down? And I would tell you that the realtor associations are fighting back now. I'll take any questions you guys might have.
Tyrone, our friends in the Longmont office asked if CAR has a strategy to make the public more aware of all of these positive benefits. And I think that just goes to your communication strategy to all of us and then to the outside public. So can you talk on that a little bit?
Yes, definitely. We used to have a public awareness campaign where we talked about all these things. We pushed that out there. And I would tell you that while we got the reach, we made the reach, we couldn't do the frequency, which is more important than, in many cases, than the reach. And so while we were spending about $600,000 on an advertising campaign to reach the entire state, we didn't have enough money to keep it going. It wasn't sustainable for more than 3 months. So we said we had to take a relook at how can we do this? And there's a couple of ways we could do this. First of all, social media. We can get out there, we can get creative, we can do that with social media. We can still do some advertising. We can still reach out and sponsor some events that are around the state, but also start working with the radio stations again and the media to help bring on experts. So we have like 20 spokespersons around the entire state. So when there's a question about anything industry related, we can say, contact this person. And so we take them through training and all that kind of good stuff. And if any of you are interested in being the spokesperson for the entire state, for your area, let us know, because we need more people that we can send the media to versus us trying to answer it as staff or hear from the car leadership. We want the boots on the ground. That's very important for us. The other way is turning all of you into ambassadors. You know your stories, you know your testimonies, you know why you're a realtor. Articulate that, explain to people what your member experience has been like. If it hasn't been good, we would like to know that, so that way we can, once again, figure out how can we make it a better experience for you. Sometimes there's just miscommunications about why that member experience isn't what you want it to be. So talk to us, give us that feedback. And then we also want to go to our brokerages, broker owners, and say, hey, here's what we're doing for you as state association, as a local association, as a national association. What do you need from us? What we've been doing, and we've been pretty effective at this, is we've been trying to travel around the entire state, constantly asking that question: what can we do for you? We call it our listening tour, because we can go out there and tell you, here's all the things we're pushing towards you, but it might not fit anything that you're trying to do. And if it's truly about your member experience, then we got to listen to what really is going on in your day-to-day business that we can be more effective at.
Tyrone, I have a question. The next year's legislative session, you made reference to one pending construction defects bill. Anything else that you can talk about that we could be forewarned about, be aware of, have on our radar? And at some point, you guys do such a good job at your call to actions and us notifying our state and local legislation. So anything on the radar that you could share with us for next year?
Well, I think some other things that we're going to look at is like AI and how that impacts the industry as well. We know that there were some bills that came up this past year that wanted to make everything transparent when it comes to technology and AI. Well, that would have hurt for the apps like Forewarn, which is a safety app. And so those safety apps are very important, in our opinion, to you as our members, because you guys are out there with individuals, with strangers, the people you don't know many times, and your safety is really important to us as an association. And so when we saw those type of things, we said, well, that doesn't hurt, that hurts what our safety aspects for our members. So we actually helped get that bill killed, but we want to come back to that and say, how can AI play a role within the association, in your business? But we also want to make sure that as you guys are out there in AI, and you might have heard Marshall Waters say this, I'm sure you heard Scott Peterson say this many thousand times, please don't just use AI chat box to create your listings and stuff like that. Make sure you go back and review them and all those things, because those things are they spit out what they spit out. And if you don't review them and make sure that they don't violate any fair housing laws or any other laws, then you can find yourself in hot water. And that's not what we want you guys to do. So make sure you take that very serious. The other thing is Project Wildfire. There's a lot of, we're going to go back. So we do have a Project Wildfire task force work group that's been around for many, many years. And the goal of that is to educate people about wildfires and how they exist. When the Project Wildfire first got started, it really just talked about the mountain areas, because that's where many of the wildfires really exist, right? That was the definition of them. But as you saw what happened up in Superior, a wildfire can exist anywhere. It could be anywhere in your neighborhood. All it takes is for it to start somewhere, to spark up. So we want to make sure that people are educated about wildfires. But what they wanted to do at the legislation last year, they wanted to include that as part of make it law that you had to have like a risk number attached to it. Well, that's not very fair, because there's no objective way to actually give you the number that you need, and then all of a sudden now your transaction is down because now someone's saying, well, you're 2 out of 5. Well, what does that mean? And we know that there's a lot of barriers, or there's a lot of misinformation out there when it comes to those type of things. So we don't want to put a barrier or make your transactions more difficult. We think that every home, every transaction is unique, and we feel like every area is unique. Location, location, your location. So let the experts go out there and be the experts, but it shouldn't be law that that's part of the whole transaction package. So we help get that killed, but we're going to come back to see what can we do from a wildfire mitigation standpoint to help make sure that homes are insurable, because that's becoming a bigger issue as well. You got the insurance industry that is starting to pull out or starting to put restrictions on homes. I don't know how many of you guys got your insurance notice from your insurance carriers for your own homes that said, we're no longer going to just take the standard deductible of $1,000 to cover the roof on your house. It's going to be a percentage of the market value of your home. And how many people can really afford to do that? So I think you guys are going to be challenged with having roofs to replace on homes you're trying to sell or trying to buy, and people aren't going to be able to afford it. Because if I got to pay $20,000 to get my roof replaced, and I had to come up as the seller with $10,000 to pay my portion of it, that might be too tight for me. So am I going to just keep my roof, or am I going to sell it as is? So there's a lot of uncertainty there that we want to make sure that gets straightened out as well.
Tyrone, a couple quick questions from the Loveland office talking about new builds and a much needed new construction class, water, anything that the associations are looking at, like as a mandatory required new construction class, with this being such a big part of our business.
We don't have a mandatory construction class as part of that, but that's something we could take back. It wouldn't be mandatory. We'll make it available to anybody who wants to take it. I think that's important. Not everybody wants to get into a construction class. I will tell you, the water we know is a big issue. We know it's coming up. Well, it's been here for a long time, but we do have a couple of our members, volunteers on the Water Commission right now as well, serving on the Water Commission to help articulate and understand what we need to do as realtor associations to help move the water conversation forward. But we know as these water issues keep arising, we know there's going to be some true battles coming up, because you have the Eastern Plains, the Denver metro area versus the Western Slope, and that's always going to be contentious. And then also, what a lot of people don't know is we give 7 states with the Colorado River, and then we have, I think, like 4 or 5 states with the Platte River that we actually give water to. So we don't keep our own water. I mean, even California uses our water, and they have oceans by them because they don't have enough aquifers for all that ocean water. But the stuff like that. So we know that this is going to be a bigger issue. But but as we talk about new construction, we know that it takes water to go into those new homes. And so how can we make sure that this is an equitable and fair way to make sure that we can build the number of homes we need here in the state of Colorado to make sure that people are housed and have opportunity to buy a home versus the water rights. We know they're doing some things such as, land xeriscaping in the front yards and smaller backyards so they don't have to have as much water. And then we're talking about energy efficient things as well. So those are all things that we want to take a look at, but anything that's going to make it more expensive for consumers to buy a home, or make it harder for you guys to participate in transactions, to consummate transactions, we're going to be against. And we're going to look for ways and solutions to make sure that while this is important, we're not saying it's not important, we're going to look for solutions to make it easier for you guys to do your job, but also to protect the consumers.
Thank you. Tyrone, can you talk at all about House Bill 24-1152 and any advocacy to forego impact fees for development?
Ooh, let me see what that one is.
Yeah.
Accessory dwelling units. Oh, I cannot talk about that one. I do know that has been on the table. I know that has been on the table for multiple jurisdictions, and I believe it's going to be up to each individual jurisdiction to say yes or no. Like, for instance, I know Denver has accessory dwelling units. Aurora did not, but now I do know that they are going to start. Jefferson County is considering those as well, but there's nothing statewide. we also want to make sure that as we look at things, we don't want to take away the local control. Because once again, when you look at some of these plans that go out there from a state legislative standpoint, we want to make sure that the local municipalities still have an opportunity to do what's best for their areas, which is why we go back to the property taxes. That was so important for us, that there's a backfill for the local municipalities versus the state is mandating that there's a state tax, but nothing for the local municipalities. So I don't have the answer to that, Jackie, but I will find the answer for you and I will send that to Chad if that's okay. There's one thing I will not do. I will not just try to sugarcoat anything. If I don't know it, I don't know it. But I have a great staff that does a lot of this stuff as well.
All right. RE/MAX Alliance, any other comments or questions for the CEO of the Colorado Association of Realtors? All right, Tyrone, thank you again so very much for speaking to us today and for all you do for our state association and for our industry. We're very grateful.
Well, Chad, thank you. And I always say thank you because you were part of that crew that helped hire me. So
I remember
10 years and still running, man. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
All right, RE/MAX Alliance, I'm going to turn it back over to Dennis to say a few words. We got a couple introductions and then we'll close out our November Zoom. Dennis.
That was fantastic. Thanks, Ty. Chad, that was good. How's everybody feeling right now? So there's a lot on the plate. Isn't it amazing when you hear somebody who has all of that rolled up into his mind and he's out there to share it with us? It's pretty impressive. A lot of you get Riz Media. Did you guys get it yesterday? It came through. The focus is bright when you focus on value. A little bit of truth to that. I was excited to see that. I think we get told a lot of times, we got to preach value. You got to preach value. It's a little bit harder sometimes to showcase value, isn't it? Anybody ever struggle showing value? I think we all do sometimes, getting out there and showing what we are better at, not tearing down somebody else what they're not good at, but saying what we are good at. Anybody ever read this book, Win the Day? 7 Daily Habits to Help You Stress Less and Accomplish More by Mark Batterson. I just want to read to you a couple quick things out of here, folks, that are pretty awesome. There's some habits that they get into, but he talks about you got to bury the dead yesterdays. I think that is so true in our industry right now. We keep resurrecting problems, keep talking about the NAR lawsuits. We keep finding anything that is negative that is holding us back. Bury it. Let's move forward. Let's find a way. You know, the only person who succeeds when you don't bury stuff is the dog, because the dog knows right where that bone is and he goes and finds it or she goes and finds it. But we as humans, once we bury it, it usually is out of our life. It's good. Part 2, they talk about winning the day. Positive mental attitude, positive verbal attitude. Your most powerful tool, whether you believe it or not, is what you say, followed very closely by what you do. Imagine unborn tomorrows. Thinking about things where we could actually participate in a better tomorrow because we're planning for it. And the last part of this book, it's called Seeding the Clouds. Isn't that so appropriate for what we're talking about? If we want to make 2025 one of our best years, and sounds like from my brother Chad is we might have a little challenge on the resale market. So what do we do to overcome the resale market conundrum and doldrum that we might be facing? New home construction is awesome. There is a lot of inventory for RE/MAX Alliance to be out there selling and participating in. Northern Colorado, we're launching a Builders Guild. If it is successful in Northern Colorado, which we feel it will be, we're going to have that in a couple weeks. We're going to roll that out to the whole community, and we're all going to be talking about how to get more business and those who are working with builders. What else is out there? There's a lot of banks looking for our opportunity to give us our knowledge, sharing our bank price opinions. They want those broker price opinions. Great way to earn a little bit of income. Being present is always the number one way to get more business. So those are just my quick little, hey, I love to be Dennis and talk about the things that makes me happy. But I want to introduce my good friend Heidi Greer, who we have hired as a recruiter in our West offices. Heidi, you want to say hello to a lot of your peers and colleagues that you knew from yesteryear and new ones?
It is awesome to see so many friendly faces, and I'm very excited to be back. It feels like I'm home. So great to be here. I can't wait to talk with each of you. Thank you.
Love it. Heidi is she is helping us grow our Western offices. We want to talk a little bit. Is this appropriate, Chad? We're going to go ahead and talk about that recruiting bonus. I think there's been a lot of confusion about what the recruiting bonus is. A recruiting bonus is exactly that. It is our way to say thank you for us helping hire a new agent that is coming to RE/MAX Alliance. Basically, what we do is you who brings us this person, we'll go out and do the heavy lifting. We'll get them brought into RE/MAX Alliance. These are the people you want to work with, you want to be peers with, that you had a great deal with. We then will pay you $250 out of their first 5 transactions. And a lot of people go, oh my gosh, I don't want to hurt my friends. That money comes out of the Alliance side. We actually gift that money to you guys to say thank you. There is no limitation on this. If you help us recruit 55 people, we are going to write 55 times 250 times 5. There's some real money there. So we want to say thank you. We want to appreciate you. There's a lot of concern always, well, I don't want to recruit people because I don't want to have more competition. Folks, that's a small mindset. We don't want to be like that. Live in abundance. When we live in scarcity, we can't have success. We'd rather have the good people right under the Alliance red, white, and blue banner and then them being elsewhere. So we absolutely would love your help and assistance in growing the company in the right way.
Did Dennis freeze up on anyone else? Yeah.
Yeah,
Dennis, you're frozen. All right, well, we will end 5 minutes early then. Dennis, we're sorry. I was enjoying it.
been often with Dennis.
Thank you all very much, RE/MAX Alliance. We're so grateful for you. I wish you all a blessed and memorable Thanksgiving and holiday season. It will be great to see so many of you at different holiday parties. Congratulations on a great year. It was a tough year. We all know it. 2025 is going to be significantly better. Renewed optimism in our industry. And just from the leadership and ownership group, we are so grateful for all of you. Have a great afternoon. Happy Thanksgiving. We're here for you. Thank you. Bye.